Alright, so Wizkid got the people talking about hip-hop again. There's a good chance your favorite rapper either responded on Twitter or right now cooking up a freestyle or has dropped a freestyle about this situation, and it's all because of Wizkid. And now, to a surprise to some of you, I might have to defend Wizkid on this one. A Twitter user, Machala247, is probably confused right now. Don't get me wrong, me defending Wizkid is not because of his Snapchat stories, okay? I don't even know who is on Snapchat till today. Good luck to you guys still on Snapchat. But we'll get to the Snapchat story later on in the video. But let me draw your attention to the article that sparked all the hysteria on the internet. An article which, by the way, I'm sure a lot of people didn't get to read, but rather just read the quotes that people just put up on Twitter without context. Wizkid is promoting his album, and this was 10 Plus magazine, a British magazine that he went on and he was interviewed. And in context of this entire interview, the whole point of it is trying to, like, I guess, poke or at least turn the curtain open a little bit into Wizkid's personality. So they wanted to get a little bit more of his person, almost sort of like the day in the live stream that we had. So the article had that objective in mind. I feel like that was the goal from the writer. The part of the article that we care about is when he makes the reference about genres. He goes, Afrobeats is the new pop. I sold 2 million copies in America off of one song. Even some American artists don't have a diamond record. If I'm being honest, I don't listen to any other genre of music anymore. So right now, we've already gotten the idea that this is talking about American market. We've already gotten that idea just from this interaction. And then it goes on to say, I don't like rap. Or I don't listen to rap, rather. That shit is boring to me. Fine, that's his musical preference. At the end of the day, I don't think people should come for him for that statement. Now, the other statements which I completely disagree with is saying it's dead now. Well, if you're saying it's dead now and it's tired, coming from somebody that doesn't listen, I'm not too surprised. Over the course of the last, say, 4 or 5 years, hip-hop has been one of the biggest genres. Drake is one of the biggest artists in the world because of this. So I don't think hip-hop is anywhere dead. They've had multiple number one placements this year alone. Yeah, it's not crazy. Right now, Rich Flex is sitting comfortably at number 2. Our own artist, Thames, was on a hip-hop record with Future and Drake that sat at number 1 comfortably for a good chunk of the year, nominated for Grammys, nominated for, anyway, hip-hop is not dead. To anyone that is observing music, it's not. But then again, it's his musical preference that led him to this, I guess, false narrative that hip-hop is dead. Now, is it reckless for someone of his status to make a statement like this? Is it reckless knowing that a lot of hip-hop listeners are the same ones embracing Afrobeats now? Yeah, it is reckless for him to make this kind of statement, but at the end of the day, he's just airing out his opinion and speaking in such a passionate way in order to big up the Afrobeats genre in that market. I kind of liken it to the same energy that Brenner had with the Coachella instance, but obviously he's overstating the presence that Afrobeats has. He's saying Afrobeats is a new pop, which, well, I think Afrobeats is definitely clearly having a momentum in the US market, but it's not in any way the new pop. There's so many other genres, at least external genres, that seem to perform even at a better rate than what Afrobeats is doing. Reggaeton right now is pretty much has been a closer pop adjacent in the US than anything close to Afrobeats doing. Essence is the only number 1. It's the only track that has smelled the top 10 from a Nigerian act. So it's yeah, it's he has been the most successful in that market. Doesn't mean everyone has been. So for him to say Afrobeats is the new pop, it is an overstatement. It is exaggerated, but I can see someone that is such a huge core of that movement to want to big up and overstate how big the movement is. But to be realistic, no, it's nowhere close to the new pop yet, okay? But then again, the conversation is then brought onto Twitter, like I said, out of context, like many conversations are on Twitter. And guess what? To no surprise, we're getting the same conversation we've had probably for the 10th or 15th time this year. It triggered a very sensitive nerve in the core of Nigerian hip-hop. This statement coming from such a form of an elite artist that has benefited from hip-hop. It's a slap in the face. I can definitely see why this would trigger any Nigerian rapper, even though he wasn't necessarily addressing them in the initial statement. Part of why they'll be sensitive to this is because over a decade now, the narrative of Nigerian hip-hop being dead has been floating and has been thrown up in their faces countless times. Okay, Nigerian hip hop has tried and taken a lot of shots over the years, and we see this over and over again. It's become a vicious cycle. Rappers feel insulted and their ego is being threatened, so they come out, put out some diss tracks here and there, send out a few tweets, call a few shots, make a few noise, and then everybody goes back to the mind control of a Kiss Daniel after. But I think there's a bigger factor at play here. I think Nigerian hip hop acts are given unrealistic expectations today. Hip hop in Nigeria is one of the few genres that has tasted mainstream success in the modern era. Okay, from Wizkid, Nato C introductions in the late 2000s to the dominance of Chalkboy era in 2009 to 2012, Ice Prince having a moment as one of the biggest artists in Africa at one point. Virtually every big name act that we know kind of had to get the co-sign or endorsement from a Nigerian rapper at the time. Davido got introduced to his first mainstream success with Back When with Nato C. Remy Baggins introduced us to Wizkid on Fast Money Fast Cars. The crazy thing about tasting this level of success is that you go on feeling entitled to it, or at least feeling held to the same standard. You're always going to be compared to your glory days no matter what. I mean, a wise man once said, street to take over, punchline or jawomo. Don't get me wrong, guys. Rap never died. Yes, you heard it. Rap never left the mainstream. Some of the hottest songs of this year alone had rapping done on the hooks. The adaptation of Western hip-hop culture is what is quote-unquote dead, okay, over the years. The boom bap East Coast type beats, and even down to the southern trap productions, the freestyles, the cypher culture, you know, the hippity hoppity hop, you know. Needless to say that there are exceptions in the mainstream arena like Black Bones and Ladipo, who have diversified their palettes since giving a shot at the top flight. Okay, whereas the types of Olamide, Naira Marley's, Latan, Fino are a few rappers that have enjoyed mainstream success because they rap local dialect over streets and Afro-pop dance productions, also incorporate local slang and dance steps. One can even argue that artists like this are a truer definition of Nigerian hip-hop, fueled out of impoverished communities, reflecting on their real-life experiences and vices. But that's another conversation we are not ready to have. The overwhelming growth of Afrobeats meant the death of everything else around it. It grew into the sonic identity of this part of the world. Same way no one is checking for hip-hop in the Caribbean because their sonic identity is deep in reggae dancehall, or why no one is checking for hip-hop in Spanish-speaking countries because their sonic identity is reggaeton and Latin pop. Alright, this dynamic is unfortunately going to stifle the commercial viability of other sounds in each of these regions, not just hip-hop. This dynamic is the same reason you have artists like Simi and Niniola suffer an identity crisis with their R&B musical roots, which they compartmentalize through EPs against their juju and Afro house approach on albums that aim for mainstream success. Same way hip-hop acts like Fouls, SDC, MI compartmentalize their hip-hop mixtapes against their easy digestible albums. That's why I think Nigerian hip-hop still thinks it can hang when Afrobeats has taken over everything in the commercial front. Keyword commercial, okay? Which brings me to my point of not everything has to be a hit. This unhealthy obsession with songs being hits can in many ways invalidate great music being put out. Hits are generated with the help of capital, money, okay? Which is something hip-hop isn't attracting to investors in music today. So when you say something is dead, you're most likely saying it doesn't have hits or it's not generating very flashy wealth for the artist. Meanwhile, there can be many niches and subcultures of genres thriving with great material in the country. SDC, Post Chocolate City, Brimo, Odusi, Santi, Cavemen, all these guys don't have a widely accepted mainstream hits to their names, but have put out great material over the years to feed their cult following. Now, in an ideal situation, in an ideal Nigeria, where the economy is booming, everybody is having some front to spend money, I think the collective goal for Nigeria is to aim for every musician to be able to eat, regardless of the sound that they're presenting to us. Be it hip-hop, be it high life, be it Afropop, be it juju, be it gospel, be it so R&B and soul, be it anything. You can be able to cultivate your own fan base and be able to make a living out of your work, because at the end of the day, music is a profession that should be respected as a profession. So I think that's the ideal scenario, not to the point where we are comparing genres next to each other. One is performing better than the other, so therefore the other one is dead and it's shit because you're not into it. And it's like, it becomes a very distracting conversation. And I think the focal point is so that we can get to, not to say like the ideal, but obviously America is one of the biggest economies in the world, so there's a lot more purchasing power over there. So you're going to see other genres be able to thrive as a profession. Rock bands can still go on tour and be able to eat. Country bands can do the same thing. Country artists, they have their own award shows. They have their own subcultures and niches spread across the landscape of music in America. And I think that should be the goal that Nigeria should be aiming for. I think, again, it all goes back to a systemic thing. The economy is going to have an influence on how people are spending money and how record labels are taking chances and risks with artists. Shout out to Ladipo and Johnny Dro. If not for the success of the Afropop records under Mavins, I don't think Don Jazzy would have opened his wallet to take a risk on other artists or in other sounds other than Afropop, because he could afford the risk. He was someone that could afford the risk. And guess what, guys? There's not that many Don Jazzys in the music industry. You cannot have that many Don Jazzys in the music industry. And it goes back to the problem of the concentration of wealth in one genre. And trust me, if the economy was booming and people were able to spend and open their wallets freely, you'll see some of these investments go into other sounds in the music scene, as opposed to what seems to be working. People are only going to follow what's working and what's making money and what's profitable, you know? So the economy as well is a big factor in this conversation, because at the end of the day, it's Buhari's fault, man. It's always Buhari's fault. Come on. Now that I've gotten the serious conversation out of the way, let's get into the messy part, okay? The Snapchat stories from Wizkid. You know, rolling up or building up to the album, okay, More Love, Less Ego, Wizkid has made it a thing to go against that title and say less love, more ego. It's been clear since a week before the album dropped. Just a week before the album dropped, okay? He came out saying some things about, again, is that Snapchat story, man? I don't get it. I think he has been putting out these comments in order to, like, I guess, stir up some form of conversation, because part of rolling out to a project or part of making people aware that you're working or doing something is to raise conversations about yourself. And he has been doing that in such an off-brand way, knowing very well from 2020 to down to when this album was rolling out, Wizkid was very reserved. His brand had evolved with this sound, okay? Kemi made in Lagos, we got a very reserved, very chilled, relaxed Wizkid. He reflected in music, so it kind of made sense. Wizkid wasn't coming out of nowhere, unprovoked, just taking shots at people and opening the window for any shots to be taken. This wasn't a thing that he was doing. So at the moment where he started, and many can guess, this is just an observation. Many can guess maybe due to the underperformance of a song like Money and Love and Bad to Me, this was what provoked him to just, I guess, let me stir up the pot, let me throw some crazy statements that would make headlines, get a lot of people talking, make some conversations about me, all right? And every artist does this. This is something that's very common in the music industry. But in my opinion, I saw it as a case of, well, this is off-brand. 2, this is also going against the message or the title of the project. I don't think this is the direction he wants to take. A better direction, ironically, was taken a few months back when he was on a reconciliation tour. He was hitting up people he had beefs with. He hugged Davido publicly. He made the announcement, or the very subtle announcements, that somebody that is not really fond of, or people don't think they get along well, is going to be on the album. He also reconciled with Northboy, one of the most aggrieved producers he has ever had to deal with. So it was a whole running theme of, okay, let's share more love and shed less ego, you know what I mean? So that made more sense in terms of rollout connected to the albums. But recently, this Snapchat stories have obviously taken a whole different direction. It's going in the very traditional route of just stirring the pot and making a lot of noise, regardless of, and not even caring about your art. In this case, I don't think he's caring enough about his own body of work. To the people that like it and people that really vouch for that project, it's not even making sense to try and connect that, what is going on right now, to his music. And Wizkid is an artist that has somewhat done that connection and has great PR prior to all of this. But now it seems all messy, and obviously he saw the reaction from Nigerian rappers as another opportunity to in order to like to poke at them, you know, and basically to provoke them to even bring up more. He was even asking them, when are you dropping your freestyles? 48 hours never drop your freestyles. Kind of like making fun and making a mockery of the genre at this point, because yes, I don't think it's warranted. I think it's too disrespectful to rappers. But then again, I'm not surprised, because they came here with a very unwarranted anger towards him because he wasn't addressing them, and I don't think people are taking that into consideration. But anyway, I'm curious what you guys think about this entire situation. I know there's two conversations at play here. There's the initial article where Wizkid was airing out his own opinion, and then there's the backlash and the back and forth with Nigerian rappers and Wizkid. Let me know what you guys think about these two different conversations, because they are different.
You know, green, white, green is the color. My skill, well, my swag makes me hard to get. I push the game to the roof for my future. I eat rhymes like